Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Net migration in the UK, the difference between the numbers of people arriving and leaving, has fallen sharply in the year after the Brexit referendum. New figures from the Office of National Statistics show it was 230,000 in the 12 months to the end of June. Now that's a drop of around a third compared to the previous year, and most of that drop is down to fewer people coming from the EU. Our Home Affairs correspondent Tom Simons looks at why the numbers are going down and what it could mean for the economy.
Is this the start not of an exodus, but of a Brexidus? We're now getting some hard numbers. French business consultant Cyril Viosa is planning to go. Polish mathematician Dominika Czerniawska has already gone back to Warsaw.
London still is the best city of European Union, but once it's not in the European Union, it loses so much appeal that Berlin, Amsterdam, and for some people Warsaw are far more attractive.
Investment has dried up. Certainly, I see my clients, I work in financial services, my clients have started to move jobs, and of course because I'm a consultant to those clients, if the roles are elsewhere, then the jobs will be elsewhere.
They're among thousands who've spent the months since that night calculating their futures in a post-Brexit Europe. Decisions which are reflected in today's figures. Since the vote, 572,000 people have arrived to live in the UK, but 342,000 have left. The difference is that crucial net migration figure, 230,000 more people living in the UK than a year ago. But following the Brexit vote, that figure has fallen sharply by 106,000, the biggest fall since records began. Many employers are deeply worried about the loss of potential workers, but not Ken Bezic, who runs a stationery firm in South Wales.
This has been a land of milk and honey. The people of Great Britain have suffered because of it for far too long, and so the drop to 250,000 we really welcome. But after having said that, 250,000 extra people is like another city of people being added to the country and straining our resources.
So some professional Europeans in office jobs are now leaving. There's also been a fall in the number of people coming here looking for work. But a Brexidus, well, it's still the case that 107,000 more Europeans came to Britain in the last year than left.
The numbers today are quite dramatic, but you do have to put them in perspective. We're only back to levels of net migration that we saw in 2014, so it's not a massive historical anomaly. And the vast majority of EU citizens in the UK are not going anywhere. They've been here for a long time, and emigration doesn't yet qualify as a Brexidus at this point.
Some businesses, like hotels, depend on foreign workers. Francesca came from Italy after the Brexit vote.
I can see that as soon as I came here in London, I applied for a job. I had the chance to start to work here, and I think it's really amazing. And not all the cities can give you this opportunity.
As for the government, well, it wants to cut net migration by more than half again. Tom Simons, BBC News.
Well, our business editor Simon Jack is here. And Simon, yes, the Conservatives have long said they want to cut migration to the tens of thousands. Now, it has fallen today. What's your assessment of the impact of that on the economy?
Well, the employers I speak to say, look, 7% of the workforce is from the EU. In some lower skilled sectors, that goes up to 15%. And here's an astonishing statistic. 75% of all waiters in the UK are from the EU. So there are some worries for employers out there. Where am I going to get these workers from if that flow of labour stops from the EU? What businesses are saying is, look, it doesn't make sense to have hard targets. If the economy grows, we may need more workers. We've got to build HS2, Heathrow, Hinkley Point, 1 million homes. Who's going to build all those things? Other people say train our own. With unemployment at just 4.3%, it's not as if there are loads of spare Brits around to train up to do these jobs. So businesses are concerned. But, you know, as Tom made in the point in the piece there, 107,000 more people from the EU than left. So no Brexiters. Keep your eye on wages. If there is a real pinch point here, wages will start to go up. At the moment, they're going up less quickly than inflation. The Bank of England thinks that'll switch around next year. If there is tightness in the labour market, that's where you'll see it.
Simon, thank you very much.
Net migration to the United Kingdom fell by a third in the year after the Brexit vote. That's over 100,000 fewer migrants who arrived between June 2016 and June 2017. The Office for National Statistics said those coming to Britain to look for work, especially EU citizens, were down by 43%. It added that it was too early to say if the figures were part of a long-term trend, but there were still 230,000 new arrivals, well above the government's target. Here's our business editor, Siobhan Kennedy.
The lunchtime shift gets underway at this trendy Lebanese cantina. It's in central London, but has branches across the country, employing about 1,000 staff, over half of them from Europe. Recruitment in this competitive industry has always been tough, but never more so than now.
The restaurant industry is definitely feeling it. We are feeling it. It's one of our biggest challenge, if not the biggest challenge. It's the majority of all our team is European. Now we're struggling to get hold of them, to recruit them, to attract them.
Whether it's through the door or online, the number of applicants for jobs has tumbled. And that's borne out today in official figures which show net migration in the year to June was 230,000. That's down by 106,000 from last year, the biggest drop on record. And migration from the EU fell by 82,000, making up 3/4 of the decline. The restaurant trade has always been heavily reliant on migrant labour. It's an easy first job for someone coming here from abroad. But in truth, over the last decade, foreign workers have become an integral part of the British economy. From the NHS to construction and engineering, even the highest reaches of scientific research and development. But what happens when we suddenly turn that tap off? Well, we could be about to find out. Seasonal work like apple picking is already suffering, and today's figures showed the number of Europeans coming here to look for work, for example in construction, has fallen, while the number of EU citizens leaving the UK has risen by nearly a third. But there are still nearly 2.5 million Europeans working in Britain, which is the highest it's ever been. Tony knows the life of a migrant firsthand. He arrived here 30 years ago from Algeria, spent his first night sleeping rough in Victoria coach station, then began washing up in restaurants. He now runs his own chain worth £28 million a year.
I'm actually very, very proud to be a British immigrant, but it worries me how other people feel. People just they just came to England to start a new life. Or how do we encourage other people to come? How can we attract talents? It's already hard enough to attract talent, let alone putting condition to them. There is a sense of maybe being unwanted.
But it could also be that with Europe's recovering economy, EU nationals are also wanted back at home.
I would suggest this is largely to do with uncertainty and equally other factors, perhaps in their home nations. So we've seen a return to growth in the Eurozone, we've seen a very strong economy in countries such as Poland, for instance, and it may just be that there are better opportunities at home than there are in the UK at this point.
For some in the UK, falling migration is exactly what they wanted to see. But for others like Tony, it only spells pain to come.
Siobhan Kennedy reporting.